Hi, everyone, and welcome to a new week, a new day. We're excited on set. Again, as always, I seem to be very excited for every episode. It's mostly because my guests just make my soul happy. And the conversations that we're having, like we said, sensitive conversations, but then we're normalizing it so that we stop having such a negative mindset on things that affect us on a day-to-day basis. So welcome to yet another episode. This week, I'm hosting someone I admire greatly, somebody I have tons of respect for. It's actually difficult to put into words, so you can imagine my excitement that he said yes.
So I do inspire people.
Right? No, if there's anything from the first time we met that I've come out with is just like admiration and a lot of respect for you as a person, for your energy, for what you do, for who you are. So I'm very excited for the audience to also get to know you, a little bit of you, and find out a little bit about your story. And hopefully, again, we learn, we live, we grow. And
we relearn.
Exactly.
Exactly. So maybe this way I introduce myself.
Yes, introduce yourself. Tell us who you are so that they can join you. They can finally feel like they're part of this club.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Ruele Okeyo. Ruele is Hebrew, meaning friend of God. I am I'm a sexual reproductive health and rights advocate. We'll get into that in the conversation. I also run a shelter for homeless and runaway queer youth called Keneth and Jacob's House. And I am a HIV champion. Yeah, so I guess those are the titles we're going to sit with today. But
for today,
these are the relevant ones.
Yeah. So today, it's just to set up by saying there's a bit of a trigger warning for a sensitive topic of HIV and AIDS. But again, it's from a point of learning. We're intending to impact a positive message and lots of positive learnings and life skills through this conversation.
Yeah.
So maybe just to take you back to the beginning.
Oh.
Yeah. Sensitive.
God made Adam and Eve. Yeah.
Back to the beginning of this journey, because I can't imagine that right from the start it was a positive thing.
Oh.
Right?
No.
Yeah. So maybe paint us a little bit of a picture.
Yeah. Well, so I tested positive in the year 2020.
Right.
When COVID just, was at the height of everything, right? So, and you know how everyone literally was like, I think by the end of 2020, COVID is going to be over and done with, and then our life can go back to normal. That was me. I was like, man, 2021, I'm going to do this. What's a lockdown? I can finally go out, have fun. But so during the entire process of COVID, so I think I stumbled, let me call it that.
Okay.
But not necessarily stumbled, but I did find a partner who I thought we were gonna make babies and buy land.
And live happily ever after.
Live happily ever after, you know? And then so one thing led to another, unprotected sex happened. And then 3 months later, I tested positive for HIV.
Right.
I was like, damn. Like, I survived COVID just to get HIV.
This long.
March, because I think March was when COVID, everything shut down in March. April, May, June, July, August, September. I'm like, just 3 months to the end of the year where everything comes normal again. And then I test positive for HIV. Make it make sense. Couldn't I just get an STI?
That you can get treated and then we keep it moving.
Forget about this. Give me syphilis or gonorrhea or herpes, something. HIV? Damn, I'm only 23 at the time. So make it make sense.
Right.
I was so devastated by it.
Yeah.
And I remember at that time, I tested positive in September 26th. That was on a Saturday. I was still in denial at that time.
Right.
Of course, I did tell my best friend about it because we went for an outreach program. So an outreach program is basically where now, instead of you going to the clinic comes to you.
Right.
So they run several tests, HIV being one of them. They also do STIs as well. They do a little bit of mental health at the outreach program. So and then there's some small reimbursement. So I'm just at home, there was nothing we were doing. And then a friend was having an outreach. I was like, okay, so let's go to the outreach program and run the test and get that money and buy the wires to make cheapos.
Yeah.
So we get to the place. My best friend goes first. His brother goes second. And then I have my turn now. So the healthcare provider does the test the first time. Like, you just test. I mean, I tested the other month and it came out negative.
Yeah.
Do your thing.
Yeah.
And then it comes back positive.
Right.
Okay. I'm like, okay, hold up. So do the test again. Now the healthcare provider becomes worried and I can clearly see it in his face. He does a test again and it comes back again positive. I did not know how to react.
Right.
I didn't completely. And so we left the outreach. We were walking back home. Like at this point, even the fries were not in my head.
Yeah. Because I mean, your mind is reeling. Right?
Exactly. Like
this is the last thing you're expecting.
This is HIV we're talking about. And HIV is for life. It's not 6 months, like, TB or something where it's for life. So that's still in my head. So before I even left the outreach program, the healthcare provider was like, give me your number so I can contact you and start medication, whatnot. I was like, nah. I did give him my number though, but I didn't start my meds at the time. So we got home and now, my best friend was trying to starting the process of making fries, but I was not contributing anything. And so when he approached me, I literally couldn't be able to tell him what had happened. So I sent him a text message and he said, I wish you hadn't told me that. So I did text him and I was like, I'm HIV positive. And then so he said, you shouldn't have told me that. And so later on, we were talking about it. He said that he felt my pain. I think in 2020 was like the worst period of my life. Since 2018 to 2020, that was like my worst period. I got kicked out of home because of my sexuality. I had no job. I had no place to live.
Right.
So everything was literally crumbling down. And then, boom, I'm HIV positive. Like, I mean, if the devil could not reach me, he definitely
he sent everyone, all his agents
to reach me. Exactly. So that is what he felt. And he was like, okay, I'm going to take you to a clinic on Monday. And then after them running tests, then we can know what's next. So 26th, 27th, 28th, my mind is literally not settled. Like I could not sleep. I was so anxious for everything. So he took me to a clinic in town. And finally at that point is where I did a test again. Like I ignored all protocols. I was like, I just want to test. I don't want to do this.
The whole explaining before the counseling session.
Just test.
Right.
So the service provider at the clinic does a test. I think, I can't remember, there's the rapid test and the determinant test. They both come back positive. I promise you, that was when the first tear dropped from my eye. I was like, this is it. I am HIV positive. So I at that point, I was like, okay, you know what? This is it. Let me just start taking my meds.
Right.
Because what led me to immediately start taking my meds was like, okay, I've done 4 tests. They've all come back positive. There is no changing it.
Yeah.
And I know from the education that I've had, being HIV positive means my immunity is compromised. And at that time, I could not be able to afford healthcare.
Right.
So there is no way you can tell me I don't take my medication.
Right.
So I can go to the hospital. I don't have money. For healthcare at the time.
You have to fix if you get sick, right?
I don't have money for that. I didn't have NHIF. I didn't have insurance. I didn't have a place to live.
Right.
So I cannot add healthcare into that. So let me just take my meds to get my immunity back on track and, live my life. So on September 28th at 10 a.m., I took my first ARV pill.
That's actually pretty amazing. Very impressive because from our experience as healthcare providers, usually the news is so shocking that we actually have to give people a bit of time. A bit of counseling happens before they accept the diagnosis and then even start to accept that they have to be on treatment for life. So the fact that you were able to transition
very fast,
that fast is actually impressive on its own. But it sounds like it was more driven by stress.
It really was.
It was the stress around, I really can't afford healthcare as well.
I mean, I had no job. I had no place to live.
Yeah.
And then, when I hear the stories that I grew up with, like, you have HIV, you're going to die any minute if you don't take your medication. That was what was in my head.
Right.
Death was in my head.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't afford that at the time. So I was like, let me, at least if I can work on anything to make it right, let me do this. So that was the first hurdle.
Right.
But the hurdle that was in front of me was I need to tell my partner.
Right. There's that.
Yo, that was mental. That was mental.
Because now that you bring up a very key point of contact tracing and informing any people you've had sexual contact with so that they also get tested.
Yeah. I was mental. So that thing was bothering me. And, I was still taking my meds, yes, but it was bothering me. I was not even thinking about me at the time. It was him. And so, I don't know. It's like fate just didn't want me to tell him, okay, because I was already head over heels for him. And he was not in town. And this is a conversation you can't have with someone via text. I needed to tell him physically.
Yeah.
And he was nowhere in town. So I approached my therapist I started therapy actually after that period. I did start therapy. Yeah. And I told my therapist, I need to tell him. And my therapist gave me 3 sides to the coin. She said, 1, he might not know about his status. So that's a positive. 2, he might say, I wanted to infect him. And 3, he knew what he was doing and he was infecting people knowingly. Okay. Those are 3 sides to the coin.
Those are very, very tough scenario.
Very tough.
Yeah.
Very, very tough. So I was like, and my therapist was like, if he switches the tables on you and says, you wanted to infect him, how will you react? Knowing very well the possibility could be the other way around.
Yeah.
So my therapist told me, don't say anything.
Really?
Yeah, that's what she said.
Interesting.
Don't say anything.
Okay.
Because this was like a week.
Yeah. It's still too soon. You need to process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was like, don't say anything. But when have I ever listened to people?
Good point. You make a good point.
Exactly.
Right.
My hard-headedness could not allow me not to say anything.
Yeah.
So eventually, after 2 weeks, I approached him and I told him, I had sex with you.
Yeah.
3 months later, tested positive. So I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying go and get tested.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, yeah, sure, it's fine. I was like, okay, so when are you going to get tested? I do have a place you can go and get tested. We can go together.
Because you're being supportive now.
I mean, I was young and I was in love. Can you blame me?
Is that?
I mean,
Right.
So eventually the man ghosted me. So damn, that really hurt.
Okay. So you didn't get any further information?
No. Okay. So I did ask him. I never knew the test results. I didn't know whether he went for a test or anything. But yeah, that hurt me most actually.
Yeah.
Before, not even
I mean, ghosting. That's the ways of the heart. We don't understand these things.
Don't. Exactly,
Yeah.
But one thing that was in my head was that now I have removed the heavy burden. I have told him. So whether or not he tests, that's up to him.
Yeah, true.
I have done my part.
You've played your role.
Exactly. Yeah, I did create his awareness. I told him, okay, I had sex with you and I tested positive. So you could go and get tested. The earlier, the better.
Yeah.
That part is done. Yeah. Now the heavy work is now on me to get better.
You talk about it very casually, but I'm hoping that people can hear that you have a braveness around you that doesn't even make sense. That's the best way I can put it, because as a provider, the normal tends to be people completely fall apart, and we actually have to figure out how to get counseling on board straight away, psychological support, so that they're able to process their diagnosis, convince them that this is something that is manageable, and that yes, treatment is lifelong, but it is possible to stay healthy for the longest time. You'll probably die of natural causes before you die of HIV.
Exactly.
And then there's the aspect of contact tracing. Now, me who works in obstetrics and gynae, it's like pulling teeth. It's like turning to dentistry and pulling teeth, because I try and convince, we'll make a diagnosis of HIV or any other STI and try and convince the person to tell their partner or partners. And
It's a
listen.
mess. It's a mess.
It's almost an impossible conversation to
Yeah.
have, because then this person goes, oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Or why would I tell them? And
Yeah,
I'm like, no,
exactly.
but we also have to keep everybody else safe.
Yeah.
And if at all they are also have
Yeah.
this infection, they need to be
Yeah.
treated so that we
Yeah.
don't also spread it. So again, like you're very calm about it, but it's the gravity. The gravity of the messaging it's something we can't just bypass. It's a lot.
Will have to come, and it will be wrong for me not to say this. It had to come from the fact of the things that I told myself during my healing process. Right. I realized when I was dealing with it, I went through like all the stages of grief. That's the best way I can put it, because I experienced all those. And the worst point was when I wished my best friend would also test positive.
Oh, okay.
That was it for me.
Like I need to carry this burden together.
I felt so bad that, I'm sorry to say, he's promiscuous. I promise you that. And if you're watching this, I am sorry, but it's the truth. I'm sorry, but that's the truth.
Best friends, guys.
Exactly.
I
do know his nooks and crannies, He's promiscuous, right?
Yeah.
And he's okay. He's HIV negative.
Right.
I had sex once in 2020 and I tested positive.
And there has to be an anger to that.
I was very angry. Yeah. I was very angry about it, So I wished for him to also test positive. And I sat and asked myself, why am I doing this?
True.
He's the only person who has helped me. He's given me a house. He's giving me food out of his own pocket. He's taking me to clinic to make sure that I take my meds. He's looking after me. Yeah. Why am I wishing this towards him?
Yeah.
And so when I sat back, I was like, no, I can't continue feeling this way. So I'm going to change the trajectory. If I have to take this pill, I'm going to take one pill and my life continues like nothing happened.
Right.
I don't want to frequent hospitals. I don't want any complications. It's just a pill.
Right.
Moja.
Yeah.
I take it, move on with life. So I told myself that, and then I developed a mantra. I told myself, I am healthy, I'm happy, I'm successful, and I'm blessed. So I kept on telling myself those mantras.
Right.
And every day it started becoming easier.
Right.
It started becoming easier. So as I take my meds, slowly I'm adapting towards it.
Yeah.
And I remember even before I started creating content, I remember there's a time I was going to town and I had my meds in the bag because I was taking them at 10 a.m. in the morning. I was in a mat. My alarm went through.
Off, yeah.
I'm like, opened the bottle, threw it in my mouth, 2/4, moved on. The second time that happened, we were down at Gikomba. And then, so in the market, opened it, threw it in my mouth, continued.
Yeah.
And that was even before I started creating content.
Right.
So slowly, I started to change that narrative of instead of having it as stigmatizing, I was like, okay, I am taking it for my health. I need to be healthy for me.
True.
If I can't afford healthcare, I should avoid those triggers that can make me frequent hospitals.
Yeah.
So it started becoming easier and easier.
Right.
And so that is how, when you say it's brave, it's because of those steps that I took and what I saw, the hate that I felt. Because also at a point, because not to get too much into the story, but I later came to find out that he was transmitting HIV knowingly.
Oh no! Okay.
Yes, that's a whole podcast.
Yeah, that's a whole.
on its own.
That's a crime, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah,
it really is.
That is criminal.
Yeah,
actually,
it's a crime.
Yeah,
right. So that hurt me even more. But I was like, you know what? I can't do anything about it.
True. Because this is your reality now.
Yeah, this is mine. Yeah. Not ours. We're not dating anymore. We're not doing anything. That's his. If he's doing that, whatever happens to him, that's a him problem. I need to focus on me. So working towards myself made me become, the person who I am. And I looked at that point where also the support system now came into perspective. I already had my best friend supporting me.
Yeah.
And then it came later on And now my folks were supporting me because during this period, again, I finally got a job. I made enough money to like move out and start life again on my own. And that's when now my folks now came to my house.
Right.
Right. And so that's where we started talking about my sexuality. And it was really hard because at that time, they also found out about my HIV status, which was, like double homicide.
It's a lot, yeah. Yeah. For any parent anywhere, it's a lot.
It really was, exactly. So, but how my folks handled it, actually, my mom was the first I came out to about my health status. But I didn't come out. She snooped and
she found your meds. Yeah, usually the way.
Exactly, you know. And I think that was just me carelessly putting them on the couch. So when she was moving it, the pills fell out and she found it. And my mom, being my mom, she Googled the pills, found out it's HIV. So when she asked me about it, I wanted to lie to her. And then I sat and remembered, I have an aunt who died of AIDS years back. And so when I thought about that, and I thought if anything was to happen to me, they would know where to start.
Right.
I would say, okay, he's HIV positive. This is the medication he's taking. So if they're allergic something or somewhere, when in terms of medication, the doctors can be able to know. So I just came out to my mom and told her, yes, I'm HIV positive. And she said, if you need anything, if you need help, I am a phone call away.
Right. Yeah. And that's amazing.
That's amazing.
Because again, like I said, your energy makes us feel like these things are very easy to handle. And that's not the truth. The reality is a lot of people are afraid to tell their parents, afraid to talk to family or friends because there still is to some degree some stigma around HIV and AIDS, right?
Heavy stigma.
That's actually just the reality on the ground because we like to feel like we're now in 2023. We've been talking about this for decades and decades now, so maybe we are approaching it a bit different. But the reality is the stigma is still very much present. So having parents who are able to understand and accommodate you and still love you for who you are, because the big message, the resounding message is that having HIV doesn't change you as a person.
Exactly.
That's the resounding message. Because if you don't get that from him, I don't know who else we are going to get it from.
Well,
because people get stuck in the bubble or in the mindset that now this defines who I am. I'm now defined by this disease. And yet it's a disease that you put yourself on treatment and you're taking care of yourself and your life can continue as you were destined to live, right?
Exactly.
That being said, there's the other side of the coin. Because now me, I advocate for the youth. There's the other side of the coin where more and more we're starting to see younger people not afraid of HIV. I'm looking after young patients who their fear for pregnancy is bigger than their fear for HIV.
Exactly.
And reckless behavior is on. I mean,
it's a norm.
It's a norm. It's not. I know it's not even like a surprise anymore because everybody is engaging in very not just promiscuous but dangerously unsafe sexual practices.
True.
The statistics we got most recently showed that we had such a huge rise in incidence of new infections. So incidence of HIV infections means new infections, not people living with HIV.
And between 18 to 24 years.
Between 18 to 24 was the highest at 52%. And then the older folk, it was much lower. So anyone above 45, it was about 8%. And then we looked at it. Of course, there's a tendency for it that it's presented or picked up more in women. And I feel that tends to be because of the programs that are available. And the reality of the matter, which came as a surprise for a lot of people, not for us in healthcare because we know the programs that are being have been set up. But we've always tended to shun and assume that HIV belongs to sex workers, MSMs, transgender people who use IV drugs. And yet that's the class where there was the least number of new infections. We had more infections in what is described as heteronormative relationships. So what are your thoughts when it comes to the youth and this newfound bravado? Because we have PrEP, so that's pre-exposure prophylaxis. We have post-exposure prophylaxis. We now have ARVs that have less side effects. So most people are looking at it as, it's just, why am I even...
Fiona.
I know, right?
No,
right?
exactly.
So what are your thoughts?
Well, gonna circulate by sections and segments. And first, if we have to talk about it being normal, that's something I'm also struggling with, because in the content I create, especially on TikTok, guys comment like, "Oh, it's very normal. It's okay."
Yeah.
And I'm yet to find an answer to that. We don't want to normalize HIV.
True.
We're not normalizing it.
We don't want stigma.
Yeah.
But we also don't want it to, like, you're casual
exactly.
about
You're
it.
casual about, like, it's fine, I can get HIV, because there are things we never get to post that people will never see, but they are some of the challenges about living with HIV. We're going to get to that later. And so the young people, I always have strong opinions, which always get me in trouble all the time.
Right.
But it's the truth, you know. Young people are very reckless. Point blank.
Yeah.
Very reckless. Natures of sex has changed tremendously. Partners have changed tremendously.
Yeah.
And if we have to put that into context and think about how, you know, the things that can be done to young people, it's because we are denying young people the information. Parents think they'll get it at school. In school, you can't talk about it.
True. Because you're also worried about what parents will say if you teach
exactly if you
them.
teach it.
Yeah.
When we come to institutions of higher learning, it's only the basics that are taught.
True.
So there is no information, because now we'll think they will find the information online. The dynamics are not in favor, because
the information online,
it's very crazy, you know, very crazy. Because I was talking to a group of young girls, I think sometime last year, and these young girls are saying, if I use Coke to clean myself after sex, I'm not going to get pregnant, I'm not going to get HIV.
Coke as in Coca-Cola?
Yeah, Coca-Cola. The
I'm
soda,
sorry, what?
you know? Exactly. And that was last year. It's what Kitambo said, it's last year. If I use Coke, it'll tighten up my, you know, it's going to make me not get pregnant.
That's a new one.
Whoa, damn, I'm
That's
gonna
a new
send
one.
you that link. Exactly.
Right.
That's what they were talking about. So and
the
then
level of misinformation is
huge.
Yeah.
And also, if you have to look about, say, okay, they're going to find the information online. How many people know how to maneuver the internet?
That's the thing.
Digital literacy.
True.
Non-existent.
Yeah.
I only know how to maneuver TikTok. I know how to maneuver Instagram or Facebook.
And that's a skill. It's a skill. It's a learned skill, because if you create content, you're forced to learn
about
how that platform works.
Exactly.
So somebody who's just consuming content, you're just ticking and believing
swiping
everything.
and liking, commenting.
Exactly.
That's it. You don't know how to look for the right information online. So again, there's that. We think our young people have information. They don't.
They don't. Right.
And when it comes down to now activities that happen on ground, then it's only to specific certain people.
Right.
I know I'm going to burn bridges by saying this, but we, especially because I do most of the work in regards to advocacy and outreaches and all that, but we base it towards the people we know.
Right.
We don't extend it to people we don't.
Yeah.
And that's where we go wrong.
Yeah.
So not everyone gets this. Perfect. You know, when we have outreaches, you're really, really, really burning grass here. You know, when we have outreaches.
That's the whole point. Listen, I'm burning grass with just this podcast.
Exactly.
Okay. We're having conversations that most people would be shuddering.
Exactly. You know.
So let's it's about talking about the reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not everyone has information, right? And so we're finding it, yes, it's okay we've normalized things being okay, but we're not telling people the positives and the negatives of them both. We're all saying, okay, yes, let's have sex positive conversations. But are we also talking about STIs, unwanted pregnancies, HIV? We're not talking about that. Why? Because we are afraid. You know, if you have to look at it from the government itself, in 2020, and I think until now, Kenya is ranked 3rd globally in teenage pregnancies. I'm pretty sure pregnancies don't happen through the Holy Spirit no more. They don't. Okay.
That's for sure.
They don't. It was targeted between school-going children. So if school-going children have the highest number of teenage pregnancies, and yet we're saying, let's not give them the information.
True.
We're doing something wrong.
And especially so addressing parents specifically. Because one of the biggest fights we have with comprehensive sexuality education and having it integrated into the curriculum is the belief that a lot of them have actually been attacked because you're trying to teach my children about sex.
Doggy style.
You're trying to teach my children Kama Sutra and positions, and I'm sitting there like, me? I'm pretty sure that's not what we're doing, because information is power.
It is.
Education and information and correct information is power, because the more this person knows about their body, understands, am I even ready to have sex? Can I make an informed decision there? And that will actually help them decide, I'm not actually ready. And if and when I am, I can use protection. I need to vet my partners. I need to be at a more responsible level than just, okay, let's just go ahead. And then it's also a child who will be more difficult to manipulate. Because again, we do have predators. We do have older people who are taking advantage of younger people. And so they're able to stand up for themselves and say, don't touch me like that. I'm not interested in that. And then report the incidences. So we are doing our children a disservice by hiding information.
The information that they need.
By feeling shy. And I'm not going to be, I don't even know how to talk about it. Then bring them to your doctor. Bring them to the outreach. Bring them to the youth clinics and let them learn from there. And we can help you.
About it. Because one of the things that this is a perfect example that I always give to parents, right? You have an 8 to 4, 9 to 5 job, right? At this point, schools are closed. What is your child doing?
Very good question.
You're at work.
That's a powerful question.
You're at work. You leave in the morning, and some leave way early, 6 a.m., 5 a.m. You've left the house, come back late at night in the evening. You're tired, you just want to sleep. What has your child done the entire day?
True. And you're not the place they come to have conversations.
To have conversations. You just wake up one morning and boom, your son has impregnated someone's daughter. And then instead of, trying to find out, you're already condemning the child. So how did he know about having sex if they didn't talk about it with you?
Where else would they be getting this information?
The young girl will be kicked out of home.
And
you
out
didn't
of
tell
school
them
as
about
well.
sex.
Yeah.
You didn't.
Yeah.
So why are you kicking her out of home and you denied her this information? For her, she felt it was okay to have sex. Everyone is having sex. It feels good from what everyone says. She went ahead and did it. You didn't tell her, if you want to have sex, use condoms, use this, use that, do this. There was no communication, but kick the child out. Child comes, tests positive. It becomes a problem. You didn't talk to them about sex. Who do you want to talk about sex to? With,
them to have that conversation with.
Who will they have it with?
Whose responsibility is it?
It's not mine.
Exactly.
I can only do so much. I'm already HIV positive. That's a sailed boat. So how are we as parents living with our children? Is it all the time squabbling and problems? And I know we have dealing with so much. We have economical issues that are weighing us down. Everyone is feeling it. But this is a child. If you're looking at the future of the child, if you want your daughter to finish high school, talk to her about it. Don't let unwanted pregnancies stop her from it. Don't let HIV lead someone to commit suicide. Because I've had those instances where someone either wants to commit suicide because they're HIV positive, or they have committed suicide because they're HIV positive.
Right.
So what went wrong? We did not tell them.
What can we do better?
We did not tell them. Exactly. And when I say this, I get a lot of backlash because I'm like, we can't talk about sex to our kids, but our kids are having sex.
That's actually the reality.
I mean, unless pregnancy is through the Holy Spirit.
It boggles the mind that we're still in such denial.
Exactly.
Again, okay, listen. So I'm from that generation. People look at me and think, oh gosh, she's such a baby. No. I'm from that generation where talking to your parents about sex was like, Not hard. Oh, no. It may be hard now.
Yeah.
It was non-existent for us. It was, can you shut up? Don't talk to boys. You'll get pregnant. Focus on school. Be a good girl. Don't even, in fact, it was don't talk to boys. As far as I knew, you got pregnant from what we are doing right now. We were talking, next thing you knew, you're pregnant. So we are from that. A lot of the parents now, that's the generation that we are from. Where we just don't even have the tools to have the conversation among ourselves, let alone now with our children. And that's fully understandable. But what we're trying to say is stop running away from the reality. We are in such an age and time where it's too expensive, too dangerous to bury your head in the sand. You need to actually educate yourself, get online and see what your kids are exposed to. Ask them questions. Learn what they already know. Because they do. They're getting information from somewhere.
They do
right?
have this information.
And it's even worse now because, again, my generation, the internet was a rumor. It was dial-up. And it took 3 hours to set up.
The internet is what? 20, 30 years?
Right? Yeah.
You know?
Listen, don't tell people how old I am.
Okay. Give me a shout.
Let's not go there. Me shout, Sana. But yeah, back then you had to dial it up, and then the expense, you just couldn't use the internet. Now we've sort of found ourselves now transitioning to where everything is just at the touch of a button. So I can understand where they're coming from when they don't. You're even in denial about how much access there is now. You're in denial about the fact that I didn't even buy them that much of a nice smartphone. They can access on that one that they have. So we do need to be more proactive when it comes to educating our children. I do have a question in terms of your experience with support in this country. Because it sounds like you've really, like I said, your journey sounds pretty smooth.
It's
and
not.
I can imagine it's not.
It is not.
Because you're now in advocacy and you're such a loud voice and you are normalizing and helping people understand that you are a human, you don't need to be treated differently. As long as you're responsible and taking care of yourself and taking care of others. Do you feel that there must have been a very good support system for you to just go straight as in such a short time as well, go straight into advocacy? Because a lot of people are still dealing with the shame and the self-stigmatization before they can even think of, now I'm going to share my story and then I'm going to work in advocacy to help protect other people.
Well, when support is relative, right? I found support in ways I couldn't even believe because the first support system I had was my best friend. Second support system was my therapist. And third support system was my parents. Now, not everyone can have it in that order.
True.
And sometimes we always tend to think that we need support from everyone. It's not the case.
True.
You know, at this point, back then, how it was, you know, the government used to sponsor support groups, you know, hospital would have those support groups thingies where people would come, talk, share experiences.
Exactly. In fact, during our training, that's what was available. So we had to do rotations in the Comprehensive Care Center in Kenyatta, where you'd have support groups for the different cohorts. As you're coming in to pick your medications, you had an introduction to people who are going through the same thing, and then you're able to support each other.
So nowadays, that's not happening.
Right.
If it is, I mean, not so many hospitals, but support groups are really, really close to non-existent at this point, right? And so people are struggling so much with trying to get the right support system because people are afraid of, you know, telling
even
this
disclosing.
person,
Because
and disclosing is a whole journey on its own, a whole journey. And I always tell people this before I get to the other point on support when it comes to disclosing. Don't disclose until you have worked on yourself so much that if someone rejects you because of your HIV status, it doesn't let you down.
True.
Because we always want to rush things. We want to tell that next available person. And when they reject us, it destroys us even more. And that will destroy us from taking our meds, from working on ourselves.
True.
So disclosure, be so strong in, you know, in yourself. Like if someone rejects you, you're okay. Okay. But now when it comes to support, you can start with the first person. And that is at the facility. When you get your medication, you can always request for a therapist. And it's always free of charge. It's always free of charge. I know HIV services that are paid for. So when you get to the facility and you have no one, you have your therapist. And they will walk with you through that journey.
Yeah.
You know, through that, like, you can make it a weekly thing. You know, they won't, it's their job.
Yeah.
They will talk to you. They will help you become better. Because I know that is what helped me even before thinking about coming out. I had my therapist for the longest time. Some things I couldn't even share with my best friend, I would tell my therapist, and she would advise on how to go about things to make me become, you know, who I am today.
Yeah.
So support at this point, it's very, very relative. It might not be the person you want. It might not be your best friend.
True.
It might be your distant cousin. It might be your therapist, you know. So, and support is not what it is. Support can look very, very different for so many people.
True.
I might want support for someone to just, did you take your meds today? Yes, I did. That's the support I need. For someone else, it could be, do you need someone to go with you to the clinic? That's support.
Yeah.
For someone else, you know, it could be, you know, just a voice, you know, when you feel it's burdened.
Someone you know I can call and this is too much, and they talk you down. Yeah.
But now, one thing about support people need to understand, 90% is you. You are your support system.
True.
The things you say to yourself, I know it sounds cliche, but the things you say to yourself are what is going to make you a better person. Because I told myself the mantra that I had is what was my strongest support system. I told myself, I am happy, I am healthy, I'm successful, I'm blessed. I told myself that so many times, I started to believe it. I told myself, I'm taking this pill and my life is moving. I do not want any complications. I don't want to visit hospitals. That was my support system. Before I even let others in, I had to be there for myself. So people will come and say, oh, I don't have support. You have yourself.
Yeah.
Don't depend on people, because HIV is not a we journey. It's a me journey.
True.
It's
That's
me.
very
If
true.
I fail to take my medication, it is me who's going to get sick.
Yeah.
You might be my best friend, and we might walk this journey together. But we're not going to fall sick.
Exactly.
It's going to be
just
me.
on you. It's on you 100%.
You will take me to the hospital.
Yeah.
You know, but you won't be there on the bed with me.
True.
It has to be me. I am my best support system.
Yeah.
So as much as the government is not doing so much in regards to offering support system for people living with HIV, you might not have it from your friends, but you have it for yourself. You have it for yourself. And that's the best way you can look for support system before you even have other people. Because, you know, when I tested positive, I was also wanted, like, oh my gosh, I need to be in a support group for like, you know, people living with HIV.
Sit and we talk about our feelings and we know.
That didn't work.
Right.
I promise you.
Yeah.
That didn't work. I found a support group. I mean, they were not doing anything that, you know, I felt was helping me get better.
Having enough impact on you, right?
No impact at all. I was like, you know what? Get somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
I left.
So basically, there's no correct form of support.
There is no correct form. Support is what you want.
Yeah. If you know someone who is living with HIV, ask them how best they'd like to be supported. Let's not make an assumption that there's a picture perfect
of support
system. Yeah.
Where you sit in a group like an AA meeting. You know, that's different.
Yeah.
For AA, you do need that.
Probably, There you need community. You need to find people to keep you on track.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But for HIV, that's a you problem. It's really harsh, but it's a truth.
Yeah.
I had to tell myself, I can't wait for people to help me out.
True.
I need to help myself.
True.
And that was the best support system I need.
Yeah.
My alarm would go off. I would immediately switch it off, take my pill, swallow it, but continue with the movie that I was watching. Telling myself every single day as I'm taking it. That was the mantra. Until it got to a point, I'm like, I'm HIV positive.
That's just that's my truth.
I mean,
that's my normal.
You know,
it's not,
I haven't changed. Nothing has changed.
Yeah.
You know, I have lost relationships because of that. But I'm like, you're lost. We could have made a cute couple, but you're lost, you know?
True. Because again, you're solid in yourself. So you're not seeking validation from anyone. And that's true for every human being, not just anyone living with HIV. It's literally, if you're not self-validated, you're not sure of your self-worth, you're going to keep seeking elsewhere.
Approval from people.
Exactly. And that's the most devastating, tends to have the most devastating outcomes because
is.
your mood, your life is dictated by how someone else is treating you or someone else is behaving.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Right?
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Look at us giving life lessons. Look at us.
You know, trajectory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just as we wind down,
yeah.
What advice would you give somebody, a young person now, who is in that sitting set up in that room with their healthcare provider and receiving the news that your test is positive? What advice would you give to them as they are now reeling? Their mind is in shambles trying to come to terms with this diagnosis.
The best support system. No, sorry, the best advice. Start your medication. Start it. Acceptance comes later. It won't happen immediately. Acceptance comes later, but start medication. Because that's the best thing you can do. You know, because
you can do for
some
yourself,
people talk about how we accept.
That's an everyday thing. I feel like that's a thing you wake up with every day and decide to accept who you are and what you're living with on a daily basis.
It is not easy.
It's not.
Acceptance doesn't come easy. But I promise you what will come easy. Opportunistic diseases. That will come easy.
That's 100% true.
That's a promise.
Yeah.
That will come easy. Acceptance, it won't come. But opportunistic diseases will come easy. We are talking about herpes zoster, TB, pneumonia. Those will come as quick, faster than how most of you make money. I promise.
That is true. That is true.
So just start taking your medication. It's not easy, but it's a necessity. Because when you keep on taking your medication, it becomes easier for you. It becomes better for you. That is how you accept. And one morning you wake up and you realize, I already accepted. And you're already moving. You're cruising smoothly.
Yeah.
With it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that message. We've talked about a lot. We've sort of mentioned here and there that you are a content creator.
Yeah.
With your permission, I will definitely show some little snippets so that people understand what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But again, what led you to that level of
coming out?
Exactly. Because that's the best way to put it. Because now it's different when you accept yourself and then you disclose to the relevant people. And then you work in advocacy within outreaches and certain institutions. But it's still quiet. It's still it's localized to a certain degree. Then you went to the internet. And said, listen, this is who I am.
Yeah.
Take me as I am.
Yeah.
So what led you there?
Well, it started as a joke. I promise you guys, all the successes I have in life right now all started as a joke.
Right?
I never intended to do that, right? So by me coming out and talking about HIV, I think the first thing that was in my mind was the next person. Because after I realized that the HIV transmission was knowingly.
Right.
You figure it out in your own words.
Yeah.
That really hurts me because this is someone I truly love.
That is somebody you should be reporting to the police, by the way. I would not be the professional that I am if I didn't say that out loud. If somebody is out there infecting people intentionally, that's a criminal
That's a crime,
offense.
yeah. Could face 7 to 14 years, actually.
Yeah.
So, that pain is what made me decide I need to talk about this because I promise you, and it also came from a point of, I would say, arrogance from my part.
Okay.
Because I think also at that time I was volunteering for an organization, so I had information about PrEP, about condoms. I had that information, but I was like, it can't happen to me.
Yeah, there's that. That's the thing. That's that one right there. Because with the lifestyles that we're seeing in Kenya right now,
it's heavy. It's very heavy.
That assumption of that I'm a superpower, I'm superhuman. It can never be me. I'll never get an infection. Yeah.
This is me talking.
Right.
It did happen to me. It's never before, right? So I thought about the next person. Would I want the next person to go what I went through? And I was like, nah, I need to create change. I need this to stop. The HIV transmissions need to stop and they need to stop with me. And how am I going to do that? Is by talking about it.
True.
I had already exhausted my platform at the point. I already talk to my relatives, talk to my parents, my immediates, my extended, talk to my friends. But I still felt I needed to do more.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a few friends of mine, actually one friend rather. Her name is Doreen. Doreen Mora, probably you know her. Talked to her and was like, how can I be able to, create information out there? And already she was publicly living with HIV.
Right.
And like, I can't copy what you're doing, sis. That's already your thing.
Your thing. Yeah.
I needed to create my thing. And so that's how I started podcasting about it. And through podcasting, episode 1, 2, talking about my story and then about stigma and all that. Getting to the start on the podcast, already I found out that it had already reached like 40 countries. So I was like, okay, I am sending a message to 40 countries. What am I saying that I can get their attention?
Right.
And so that is how I started creating posts, creating podcast episode about it and talking about it. So majorly it was because I wanted to create change. I needed the HIV transmissions to stop for that next person. I don't want them to walk this journey that I have. I don't want us to normalize HIV.
Exactly.
Right? I want it to stop with me, not the next person will stop it. No, I will do it.
Right.
So that is how I found myself creating content and working in HIV spaces.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question now, because I could keep you here the whole day.
Well, I have an entire day. So.
What would you like to see? Because you've mentioned a lot about what the government isn't doing, or what support we no longer have that we used to have before. What would you like to see more of from government, from political leaders, from our religious leaders and institutions, from schools? What would you like to see more of in terms of both education, support, all those different aspects to make it easier? Because the other thing we keep forgetting is there are people living with HIV from birth, because we do still have quite a high rate of mother-to-child transmission. And so it's not something you're going to sit down and judge someone because of their lifestyle, right? They were born like that. This is the disease that they're having to learn to live with. From birth, this is your normal. That for that person, that's literally who they are. So what would you like to see, or how would you like for these big players to have more of an impact on people living with HIV in Kenya?
I want to see better services.
Right.
Literally better services. Because if you go to a supermarket and the service is amazing, that's a supermarket you will want to go to.
True.
That's a supermarket you will tell your friends, oh, don't go here. Go here. They have amazing prices. The staff is friendly. The proximity is really good. Those are the services that we need for people living with HIV. Because what we're focused on is quantity rather than quality.
Right.
How many people have come to the facility?
That's true. We actually have registers and we document everything and how many people do we have on meds. And those are the wins. Those are documented as the wins, right?
It shouldn't be like that.
Right. You're still dealing with human beings. Yeah.
Let's have less number of people testing positive for HIV.
True.
Because the services are available.
True.
The information is available. If we're looking at it from different dynamics, we have the young people, between 0 to 35. We have senior citizens. Let's put all those into considerations and create amazing services out of it. That, we're tackling issues like stigma.
Yeah.
We're tackling issues like, medication, proper medication, nutrition has to come into play. Because, I can't be taking my ARV medication and I don't have food.
True.
My effort is going to be looking for food, not taking
That's
this
actually
medication,
very true. And even the side effects on an empty stomach.
It's heavy.
Yeah.
It's
You're going to end up not taking
them. There are people who take like 4 pills for HIV. Like, nobody got time for that. I need food. I don't need this.
Yeah.
But, if I'm in a position where I can get something from the clinic, if I'm in a situation and the clinic knows I don't have food, I can get food.
Yeah.
I will take this medication.
Right.
if the clinic shows me what stigma looks like, internal stigma, external stigma, anticipated stigma, if the clinic emphasizes on that, I'm going to know how to tackle it. If the clinic talks to me about disclosure, I'm going to know how to talk about it. When I walk to a clinic and I'm not stigmatized because of my HIV status and I'm not a statistic, don't look at me as a statistic. Look at me as a person coming to seek services. We're going to see a change. We are going to see tremendous change because it's services that are non-existent. You walk into a clinic, they're on a medication. You walk into a clinic, the nurses are stigmatizing. You go into a clinic, everyone knows you have HIV.
That's the other thing.
I'm not going to go back there. Exactly. You know, I won't. You see, and then that creates a room where even I feel so rigid, I can't entrust someone. Because if I experience all this from a health facility, what makes me sure that my friend won't do the same? If these are the healthcare providers who are supposed to help me get better. So if we get the right services, the numbers are going to go down. Don't look at people living with HIV as statistics. Let the medication that has been provided either remain as they are or zishuke kidogo. Because if we have to look about how many people are testing positive, we're not going to end this pandemic by 2030. I hear now it's already been moved to 2060. Is it 2065?
We've seen we're not meeting our goals.
Exactly.
It's unfortunate.
Exactly. But see, now I took it upon myself to try and create that change. Because you see, I create content where I take my ARVs publicly. And that was the need I had to address. Because people would come to me and say, "Hi, Ruel, I'm really, really struggling with taking my medication." I'm like, "Okay, you can take them at in your house." Like, I can't. I'm like, "Why? Do you live with friends? Do you live with family who you've not told?" Like, "No, I just live alone." So you should ask yourself, why is this person who's living alone afraid of taking their medication?
And address the issues
exactly.
They have with it.
I would understand if you have a spouse or I would understand that. But why are you in your house afraid to take medication and you live alone? So if you're afraid, I'm going to do it publicly in public spaces where you will feel encouraged to take them at the comfort of your house. So that's a change I created. And I'm proud to say that I have initiated people into care because of that.
That's fantastic.
You know?
Because it's powerful. You think it's a little thing.
Yeah.
But the fact that I'm watching you take ARVs in the ocean.
You're
taking them in the bus, in the matatu. On holiday, you're taking... The fact that you're doing it, it's not that it's not... In fact, I don't even know how to put it in English because it's a powerful message without you even having to say anything.
Exactly. And that's what I really want, to create that change. What can I do without resources, without money that can create change? And that was
and it's brilliant.
Smallest thing I could actually do.
Yeah.
Any place you are, that's what I'm trying to. Any place that you are, you can take your medication because people don't care. I mean, people have 101 things in the backs of their minds.
Yeah, we have.
You taking meds, that's the least of their concerns.
And in fact, you taking meds is a positive because there's somebody else who hasn't yet been able to start on meds or hasn't accepted themselves yet or their diagnosis yet. And they're putting themselves at very high risk for, like you said, opportunistic infections. So the fact that I'm taking, you shouldn't be stigmatizing me for taking, right?
But then again, also people will hate.
Yeah,
people are always going to hate. And it's always the HIV negative people.
Unfortunately.
The other day I had to rant. Maybe you probably did see it because guys became so salty in my comment section about how I am clout chasing using HIV. I am not HIV positive. I'm just looking for clout. Yeah. How I shouldn't be glorifying HIV.
The trolls,
and making people. I was like, I am not creating content for you guys. My content is for HIV positive people who can't take their medication. Because we are 1.4 million people living with HIV. Please, let's just leave it at 1.4. We don't want 1.5, 1.6.
True. It's not a competition, guys. It's not.
It's not.
No, but you say a powerful thing, and that's maybe the message I'll close this off on.
Yeah.
For most people who are online, if your work is online, if you're a content creator or a digital creator of any kind, the best advice I got was if you don't have trolls, if you don't have haters, you're really not doing anything. the more you have, the better you are. the harder you're working. So just keep at it, because you're having an impact, a massive impact.
Thank you.
And like I said at the beginning, I feel like now that everybody has had a chance to experience you all understand what I was talking about when I say that this is somebody I have so much respect for, because just the ability to be open and honest, the level of self-acceptance that you've gotten to. I mean, a lot of us have a lot of work to do just on the mental health aspect. Forget anything else. The fact that you're able to make such a big impact from, and your videos, the thing, especially the ARV ones, where you're not even saying anything. It's in the power of where I'm standing. This is where I'm taking my meds. It's such a powerful message. And I'm sure now that the audience have had a chance to experience you, they fully understand where I'm coming from. And just as a parting shot, it's literally, HIV is not the end of the world. It's not a death sentence. It's not something you need to stigmatize anyone or be afraid of anyone about. But at the same time, we're not normalizing it to the point where it's okay if I get HIV.
It's not.
That's not the message. And we're actually trying to discourage that mindset, because it's becoming more and more of a narrative, and it's very dangerous that we're seeing with the youth at the moment. So I just want to say thank you so much for joining me. I'm so honored. I don't even think you understand.
Well, we can have an episode 2.
We probably will, because if you look at the description below this video, and also if you're listening, if you're an audio listener, I'll have the description alongside the episode. You'll find all our contact information, all our socials. If you want to reach out to him directly, if you'd like to leave a comment with questions, I mean, I can always give me an excuse to have him back.
I'm unemployed, so I have so much time.
Give me an excuse to have him back on. But as always, thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you so much for taking the time. I hope you've learned quite a bit about HIV, and especially from a young person living with HIV.
Yeah, I'm 26 now.
26? Yeah. Searching? Anyway,
I am searching. I am very much searching.
We'll set you up on another day.
Imagine.
So thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you again on next week's episode.
Bye.
Bye.